Now, with countries struggling to contain the COVID-19 pandemic, scientists and doctors across the world are racing the clock to develop a vaccine against the deadly virus. Wall Street Journal reported that over 140 experimental drug treatments and vaccines for coronavirus are in the development stage. 11 of these are already in various stages of clinical trials. Pulitzer-winning author, scientist and oncologist Dr. Siddharth Mukherjee told me yesterday that a vaccine is still a long way away. However, he said that there has been some progress on antiviral therapies based on antibodies that may prove effective against the virus. In India, Pune-based Serum Institute told us last week that it hopes to begin human trials for its vaccine candidate by the end of the year. And now, another Indian vaccine manufacturer is throwing its hat into the ring. Hyderabad-based Bharat Biotech, which has been working on developing a nasal drop vaccine for COVID-19, says it has initiated testing in the US in collaboration with the University of Wisconsin-Madison and vaccine developer Flugen. The company hopes its Corofluke vaccine should be ready for human trials by the end of 2020. To tell us more about the vaccine, we're joined by Dr. Krishna Ella, Chairman and Managing Director of Bharat Biotech. Dr. Ella, many thanks for joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Let me begin by asking you, sir, Bharat Biotech has been involved with the earlier pandemics, whether it was H1N1, Zika or chikungunya. You've commanded a large market share of the vaccine market specifically to deal with pandemics. What is different about coronavirus and what you make of how COVID-19 is spreading across the world?
I mean, each virus is different. I mean, it's like a different human being. So we need to handle each virus differently and different vaccine development. And I think, COVID-19 is going to be reality. And not only this one, we're going to be living with the future many pandemic. And I think the pandemic not only hurts health of the people, but it does hurts the economy of the country itself. So that's why the vaccine become much more important today than health of the people also. I think we are working with one of the COVID-19 nasal flu vaccine with University of Wisconsin, one of the professor, Yoshiro Kawaoka, who is probably #1 in the world on flu vaccine. And we are happy to work with him. And right now, it just completed the R&D experiments, and now it's going through animal trial. We are looking at the animals because this vaccine has got some problem similar to dengue problem. So you need to be cautious in the animal that safety of the peoples are not affected.
When you say that it has some similarity to the dengue problem, can you explain that a little more to us, sir? And also you talked about this intranasal vaccine that you are developing in collaboration with the University of Wisconsin, and it's gone into animal testing. By when do you hope to conclude the phase of animal testing?
The animal testing will take another 2 to 3 months minimum, 3 months to check that everything safety is all right, the immunogenicity is all right, and the efficacy, it protects against the challenge of the virus. All three we have to establish. That is right now going through in Madison, Wisconsin. The reason we have to do that, because we don't have animals in this country. If we want to import the animal, it takes about a year. So I don't think we can do a lot of R&D also in this country. So that's one of the bottlenecks we face as Indian manufacturers. So that's #1. The second one is a nasal vaccine, because we choose the nasal strategy because of flu and COVID-19, RSV, any of the respiratory pathogen, it enters through nose and gets into the lungs. So the only way is to have the best immunity will be the mucosal immunity. We call in immunology mucosal immunity. That's one of the best immunity body can produce against any infectious diseases. And we love to have that immunity for our people to protect better. And this, by giving a nasal, it gives you that mucosal immunity, and that will be lost longer. And it protects against any infections. And that's what we are trying for right now.
Okay, you talked about some of the challenges of being able to conduct animal testing here in India, but now that the animal testing is on in the US and you hope that it will conclude over the next few months, by when do you expect a vaccine to actually be able to hit the market? Because the earliest one is hearing from any of the big pharma companies who are also in the market with trials for their lead candidates is next year, early next year.
One nice thing about our vaccine platform is already the platform technology is proven in the phase 2 human clinical trial in US already. The Flugen company has completed with using a flu platform, flu vaccine already. So one nice thing is we have already working by, we call cell culture, vector, and established the safety profile of the product. Everything is established. So we have much easier way to fast forward a lot of things. So we expect at least in 4 months in the human clinical trial. The nice thing about the human clinical trial is going to be one dose vaccine. We assume it's one dose, and then it's going to be 30 days looking at the immunogenicity. So we expect the human trial will go very fast track. But most important, the animal trial is very crucial for us right now. But we hope the human trial will be much more faster. And we established already the dose required for the human flu vaccine. So that gives you a lot of confidence for us to move forward very fast.
Okay. Let me ask you, sir, currently the governments across the world are working with the assumption that containment is the best strategy to try and contain the spread of the coronavirus, which is why you've seen full lockdowns or partial lockdowns across the globe. Now, India is getting closer to the 14th of April, which is when it's expected that the national lockdown will be relaxed, whether fully or partially, we don't know yet. But there's also a possibility that that lockdown will continue. Now, this has a social as well as an economic cost to it. So as we approach an exit strategy, whether it's the 15th of April or the 30th of April, what do you believe needs to be the levers that the government, both at the centre as well as the state level, exercise to ensure that we mitigate risks?
I think our Prime Minister has taken a right decision of containment. That's a very important. Right now, you don't want people to get exposed to the virus. That's the only one thing we can delay the process. Right now, we are in the phase 2 to 3 stage. But you look at China, which is around same January, end of the January, the same thing they found, they given a lockdown, and they released only in March end. So it took 2 months for them, the lockdown to lift. If you go by analogy of China, then we need a 2 months lockdown also in India. That means we locked down only 2 weeks back. So we need another a month and a half to lock down if we go by Chinese logic.
Okay, so if we go by the Chinese logic, but our numbers are very different at this point in time. We're about 4,400 plus reported cases, active cases lower than that. So the numbers are very different from what we saw in China or what the other countries are tracking in Europe and, of course, in America. Is there any evidence at this point in time in the work that you have done to understand why perhaps this virus may be less virulent in India, if at all you believe that to be the case?
I don't think it's a less virulent and more virulent. The Indians are resistant to the virus. I don't believe all those things. But I think a virus doesn't discriminate Indian or Chinese or Americans. It's going to be safe. And I think my feeling is we are contained a little intelligently, much ahead of the game, number one. Number two, the weather conditions also not that very favorable, second. And I think we are the last place to come in. So I think we have to wait and see in June, July also. I don't think we'll escape if at all goes wrongly. So I don't think Indians will be resistant or the weathers are that much factor. But certainly, we have to understand our slums area, rural poor, where the 1 meter is only one wall is differentiating between the two houses. So the lockdown means very difficult.
Yes.
So right now, what we are doing is delaying the process so that our healthcare system doesn't collapse. But you leave everything to happen, then our healthcare system will collapse, hospitals will collapse. Even district hospitals will not be capable of handling these issues. So I think we are holding the disease slowly and systematically.
All right, Dr. Ella, before I let you go, when is the earliest, assuming that your platform strategy works and, of course, the trials are successful, when is the earliest that we could see the vaccine in the market?
That's the one question everybody asks me. I need to go to astrologer and ask like that. If the science goes well, my feeling is by end of this year, we should be able to be there in the market if the science is proved very well, the way we are assuming, or we hypothesizing. And if our hypothesis is correct, and if science is good, I don't think we should be there by end of this year into the market.